On today's PHLY Flyers, we're going to look at why they can't score 3 or more goals in a game. When they do, Dan Vladar is 18-1. Could it be Rick Tocchet's fault? Find out right now. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me here live as we prepare for a tornado in the Xfinity studio, it is Philly's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor.
I really hope not. I'd rather not a tornado hit the city of Philadelphia.
It would be weird.
That would be less than ideal.
Yeah. One hit the town next to mine where my high school growing up was a few years ago, and the wind patterns totally changed since then. Very weird. All the trees are gone. Trent Cole's house, a mess. It's
You know what? Sure. I'm not even going to question you on this.
It was very weird. It was 2021. It was a month after I bought my house. I was like, of course a tornado is going to hit us a month after I finally bought a house. But anyway, here we are on today's PHLY Flyers show. We are going to talk about the playoff push, baby. Yeah, we're not. I mean,
Intentionally.
Yeah, possibly.
Potentially.
They have 16 games remaining due the Philadelphia Flyers. They are 31-23-12, Charlie. And this is the part I love the most. I took a look at the regulation record. They are 20 wins, 23 losses, and 23 ties through 60 minutes of game action this season. It's unbelievable how often this team goes to overtime. Every game ends in a tie. And I think they've had 11 or 12 shootouts. Like 65 minutes, typically not enough for this team. Is it just the way they play? Like, yeah, we're just going to keep it. We're just going to try to get a point and see how it, like, is this intentional that they go to overtime a third of their games?
No. I mean, it's not like they go into a game thinking we're going to go into overtime. Like, that's insane. But do they, with 6, 7, 8 minutes left in the game, if it's tied, maybe make strategic decisions in terms of which lines go over the bench, which players get sat more? Do they do that? That makes it more likely that an overtime game is going to happen? Yeah, I think so. And then also it plays into the way they play. They play a tight checking, low scoring game that's more conducive to overtime games. The one thing I see when I look at this, though, is suddenly I desperately want the Flyers to win all 3 of these games on the road trip in regulation, because I need their record to be 23 wins, 23 losses, 23 games going overtime. I need the symmetry, William.
I'll tell you,
too funny.
I'll tell you, that is my exact prediction for the next 3 games is they sweep this road trip. They win all 3 games in California, and then they will come home and have another crack against the Columbus Blue Jackets and fail for like the 8th or 9th straight time to convert a 3-game winning streak into a 4-game winning streak. I think that is exactly how this is going to go. But if 3 straight regulation wins would be damn funny.
It would be amazing.
If they were through 69 games, 23, 23, and 23 in regulation, that would be freaking awesome.
The epitome of mid.
It would be the most Flyers thing they could possibly do. Right now, the team has 74 points through 66 games. That's a .561 points percentage with a -14 goal differential. They're 6 points out of the wild card, 7 points out of the Metro playoffs. It's basically over unless they can win the next 5. That is what I think could potentially happen. But you just see like what this team has done against the Metro division since December 1st. They're 4-7-4. That's a 400 points percentage. This is the exact reason they are not in a playoff spot. Like January, the teams that they are in direct competition with for the top 3 playoff spots in their division, if they could have just come through, it's not like they have been bad all season. They had a bad 15-game stretch for the most part. That's really what it was. And it just absolutely destroyed their playoff chances. Money Puck now has them at 5.4%. It's a damn shame the way this season has gone, because for the most part, they have been at least okay. And for some stretches, they've looked really good. But they just haven't been able to string it together, and they fell apart in January, as we have said time and time again. And that has led to this 6th straight year in which they will probably be out of the playoffs.
Probably. Yeah, and I think I articulated this a few weeks ago, and I'll reiterate it today. It's not that it is, like, you ask me, is it over? No, it's not over in the sense that they could. There's enough time. They still have enough time.
Oh, yeah.
Where if they were to go on, a 6, 7, 8 game winning streak, they could put themselves right back in the mix. They could, in theory, get themselves back into this. But that's theoretical. What we know, based on what we've seen from them through 66 games, is that they do not look like a team that is capable of doing that. They haven't strung together 4 straight wins in 2 seasons. This is not a team that appears to be good enough or consistent enough or both of those things to do what they will need to do to get back in the playoff mix. Like, you brought up the Metropolitan Division. You brought up their record against the Metro. To me, the big example of their struggles against the Metro, I'm not even going to point to, Carolina. Well, we know Carolina's better than the Flyers. I'm going to point to the New York Rangers.
The Rangers, okay? Perfect.
This Rangers team, I guess at least for the first half of the year, they were trying and they had moments, but they're a bad team. Now they're a really bad team because they've gotten rid of some guys and they basically decided, yeah, we're doing a rebuild, retool on the fly, whatever, but this year doesn't matter. And you go back to the games they played against them. They played against them on December 20th. They lost 5-4 in a shootout. Okay, that was game number 1 against the Rangers. Then they played against them on January 17th. They lost 6-3 in regulation. Then their next game against them, they played against them on February 26th. They won, but it was an overtime win. Not even a regulation win. It's an overtime win. They win 3-2. And then most recently, they lose 6-2 to them in regulation. This is the team that
they've been killed by them twice.
This is the team in the division that you're supposed to rack up the wins against to pad your record. And instead, the Flyers can't beat them in regulation. They have not beaten them in regulation. These are the points that you give away. Like, the Flyers are a mid team. I believe that. They are not a bad team. They are not a good team. They are a mid team. But there will be plenty of mid teams that make the playoffs this season in the NHL because there are a few really good teams, then a bunch of mid teams, then a few really bad teams. That's the NHL this year. The Flyers are good enough to theoretically make the playoffs. That is not me saying they're a good team. That's saying they're good enough in this NHL to make the playoffs. But if you blow it against teams that really on paper you are better than, and other mid teams don't do that, those are the mid teams that are going to make the playoffs in place of you.
No, and it's like you have Detroit 3 times coming up, and just like looking at Pittsburgh and the Islanders have the same number of points. Detroit right there in that second. Like, there are paths for this team to get in, and there's just no confidence that they are going to be able to string together after 66 games. Like, yeah, man, they win the next 5. They could, but like, had they won in regulation on Saturday, they're basically back in it. But instead, they lose in a shootout, and it's, well, why should I have any confidence that when the chips are down, this team can actually get the job done, Charlie? And it's really, it's just really disappointing because for the first 41 games, they looked like, all right, man, they're going to get in. Like, they could really get in, and not because they're very good, but because of what the East is, they could win a round. They could win 2. Not that they were going to, but like the path to the Eastern Conference Final was very, not easy, but it wasn't exactly difficult.
I think they maybe could have won a round. I'm still very skeptical they could have beaten Carolina. I know you were bringing, well, maybe, but like a round, like if they played against the Islanders, sure.
Carolina, just given their track record of playoffs, what could happen? Their goalie goes to hell, they can't score. That happens to them all the time. Now, it happens to the Flyers all the time. Like, I'm not saying like it would be an easy series, but to beat Carolina in 6 or 7, like with 3 overtime games and their goalie is an .850, like that happens to them every year. Like it could very well, just like the possibility existed. And because they just pissed away January, it doesn't. And you look at what they have done against the Metro, like what's that, 1 regulation win against the Rangers in 4 tries?
Not even a regulation win.
No.
It's an overtime.
No regulation wins.
This is the worst team in the division.
The Rangers have 19 regulation wins on the season. 2 are against the Flyers. Like,
Ouch.
that's, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you did this to yourselves. And what upsets me is it feels like it wouldn't have taken a lot to to really have a much stronger record than they do this year, Charlie. Because I want to talk a bit about Dan Vladar, and we'll do this after the break as well, but I just want to get things started here. So Dan Vladar is 21-11-7 on the season. His goals against is once again sub 250. His save percentage is back up to .905. He has made 40 starts. He has allowed 2 or fewer goals in 27 of those 40 starts. He has lost 2-1 6 times, and 4 of them in overtime or a game that went to a shootout. Technically, like the Flyers would have lost, 2-1. It's just insane how many times he has lost 2-1 this season. Considering, like, we're asking for a few goals here. In his 40 starts, the Flyers have scored 3 or more goals 19 times. They have won all but one of those games. Score him 3 goals and you win. This team's incapability of scoring 3 goals with a good goalie in net is absolutely insane. Even Sam Ersson, winning record, technically, with when they score 3 or more. Yeah, he's 8-4-4, but hey, like that's a winning points percentage. 8-4-4 when Sam Ersson is in net and you score 3 or more goals. It's very funny that they're 500 and they're 18-1 with the other guy. But anyway, we're going to talk about the goaltending and the scoring on the other side. Stay tuned for that after our first break. AirDNA is the leader in data on short-term rentals like Airbnbs, and they just released a free calculator to see how much you can make renting your home out for the World Cup. Occupancy is up 200+% already for the group stage matches, and we are still months out. Available rates people are charging are even 2 to 3 times more than what they were charging last year. This money can help you reach your financial goals. You can go on a dream vacation, pay off your mortgage. This is a once-in-a-lifetime tourism event driving this demand, so don't sit on the sidelines. Over 5 million fans are expected to attend the World Cup, and hosts' earnings are expected to reach nearly $212 million, and over 2.7 million plus guests are expected to stay in Airbnbs. All right, so listen to the sound of my voice. Think about that brand new patio, the season tickets, the epic vacation. Hell, go to the World Cup and stay with a friend while you rent out your own house. I don't care what you do with your money, but you gotta see how much you can make at airdna.co/flyers. Whether your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way to win on the BetParx online casino app. You gotta check out brand new games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, which is a BetParx exclusive. You can play blackjack, you can play roulette, you can play craps, poker, baccarat, and hot online slots like Cash Eruption and 88 Fortunes. Play all your favorite classic casino games from wherever you are, and new users right now get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Play hot online slots based on your favorite streaming shows like The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad, all your favorite classic casino games from wherever you are. It's the only app I ever use to play all my favorite casino games right in the palm of my hand. Go to betparx.com and download the app right now to enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParx. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. BetParx. Remember, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back. Before the break, Charlie, I was going over just how effective Dan Vladar has been this season, and there's plenty of great numbers on the GSACs and the GSAA.
Yeah, I want to talk about
Yeah.
that. You finish your thing, but don't go too
No,
far
no.
astray, because I want to talk about something that I strongly. It's not that you're intentionally implying this, but I do want to push back against it because I think it's a narrative that has taken steam in Flyers world. The idea that like Dan Vladar is like the only reason why the Flyers are good. But continue. Just don't go too far astray so I can get back there.
He has simply provided them the baseline for winning he is, after a season in which we saw how goaltending can just absolutely sink you, he has, again, score 3 goals, you win. They're 18-1. And even with Sam Ersson, the guy who stinks, worst save percentage in hockey this year, worst save percentage in hockey since he became a full-time NHLer. 8-4-4 when you score 3. Yeah. I bring all this up because David Pagnotta talked about the Flyers goalie situation and discussed how they were maybe in talks with Toronto and Minnesota about adding a goalie at the deadline. Didn't happen, but maybe they'll come back to pursuing Jesper Wallstedt or Joseph Woll this offseason. Sam Ersson should absolutely be replaced. Now, we see this.
I think he's going to be.
He absolutely should be. If they want to qualify him and say you can compete in camp and then make him the number 3 and send him to Allentown, whatever, but like he needs to be replaced. But even when they score 3 for him, they win or at least get a freaking point. If they are to pursue one of these high-end goaltenders and pair him with Dan Vladar, that really doesn't do for you as much as adding some offense would.
See, I don't totally disagree with you, but I think the backup goalie is a big deal.
Oh, it's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. Because here's what I want to get at. I want to argue against the point, the often articulated idea that like Dan Vladar has been the Flyers' savior and that he's the only reason why they're not terrible and that he's single-handedly destroying the tank and all this stuff. And what I want to explain with that is that while there is truth to that, I don't love the way it's framed, because the underlying implication that comes with that line of thinking is that Dan Vladar has been this unbelievable goalie who's doing such a good job in front of a terrible team, and he's single-handedly dragging them into competency. And the reality of the situation, and I want to make this clear that I'm not doing this to crap on Dan Vladar. Dan Vladar has had a good season. He's dramatically exceeded my expectations. He's almost certainly the team's MVP. But it is worth noting that if you're going by goals saved above expected, I'm using the Evolving Hockey version of the stat. There are other versions of the stats. I bet he would end up around the same spot. Dan Vladar currently ranks 16th in the NHL in terms of goals saved above expected. He has stopped 20.87 goals above expectation. That is a good number. He's having a good year. He's looking like a good goalie. But there are 32 teams in the NHL. Basically, what Dan Vladar has played like this year is he has played like a solid starting goalie. And that's great. The Flyers needed a solid starting goalie. But this is not a situation where the Flyers are a bad team that is being carried by a guy who is delivering top 5 Vezina quality goaltending. What has happened is the Flyers were probably a mid-team last year that was dragged down by truly horrendous goaltending. And now one of their 2 goalies is suddenly not horrendous. That is what's happened. So it's not like it's not like Dan Vladar is dragging a bad team into being mid. It's that when he's in there, he takes a mid team and turns them into a decent team.
Yeah, I do think there is something to how well this team defends in front of him for the most part. Again, in January, it was like backdoor pass goal.
Yeah, that was a problem.
It was like a video game glitch in January where they just like their controller was unplugged for a month. But what I will say is, I think the focus, that's where I bring in Rick Tocchet to this conversation. The focus so strongly on denying high-end chances is reducing their offensive output. And I did this on a mini pod, the one you weren't on a couple weeks ago, Charlie. Like, yeah, man, you need to be a good defensive team. You need to be a top 10, maybe top 7 or 8 defensive team to win a Stanley Cup. You also need to be a top 10 offensive team to win a Stanley Cup, and the Flyers are nowhere close to that. And if you are getting decent goaltending, as they have, at least in, the 40 starts.
Vladar starts.
The 40 starts. Yes, the 40 starts that Vladar has had. Maybe you can sacrifice a little bit of defense to create some offense, because if you score 3, you win with this guy. And 18 teams in the league average over 3 goals a game. You have to score 3 to win in this league. If you are just putting up the 2.77 or 2.5 around there that Rick Tocchet teams typically average, you're not going to win enough games. This is kind of my issue. Like, they can get all the goaltending they want this offseason. If they continue to play a way that you don't get any shots and you don't score any goals, it won't matter.
Yeah, see, I guess that's where I disagree. Like, I don't think it's that far. I think it will matter. I think if you do what Dave Pagnotta is implying that the Flyers are considering doing, which is going out this offseason and getting a dramatic upgrade at backup goalie, I think it does matter. Now, it can't be the only thing they do. But looking at Sam Erson's numbers, Sam Erson, in terms of goal saves above expected, let me figure out exactly where he ranks. He ranks 82nd in the NHL in goal save above expected.
Again, 32 teams.
Out of 86 goalies that qualify.
I can't believe there's any lower.
At all.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan Binnington exists. So there's.
Oh, yeah. Binnington's numbers are garbage.
Now, the goal saved above expected public numbers are a little bit off this year. I just don't think that public data has quite recalibrated to where things are. But let's replace Sam Erson's goal saved above expected with what would rank this year as an above average backup goalie. So let's say a guy who ranks in that like 33rd to 40th range. That's about plus 10 goals saved above expected. Erson is currently at about -5. That's 15 goals. So if you actually get an upgrade to the backup position and Dan Vladar continues to stay where he is, you are essentially gaining 16, 15, or 16 goals. That's probably like 2, 3, 4 wins. That's big. That's a big deal. Now, that can't be enough, because if you just do that, then you're still just battling for a bubble playoff spot. If you want to actually be confident you're going to make the playoffs, you have to do that and score more goals. So I disagree with you that it's like, well, don't worry about the goaltending. All that matters is scoring goals. No, why don't you do both? Improve the backup goaltending and find a way to score over 3 goals a game. And then suddenly we're cooking with a little bit of gas here.
They definitely need to improve upon Sam Erson. You can't, especially doing things the way you're doing, where it's like, well, we need to play important games to see what this team does in those games so they get the experience, and eventually there's a build up through some playoff experience that they become a good playoff team. And to your point, like, they have a -14 goal differential. Hey, we're even or plus.
Yeah.
Like, that's
what do you know?
1, it's a tiebreaker, and 2, goal differential kind of tells you who the better teams are. Yeah. Like, normally,
usually,
like through like 50 games or so, it's like, hey, this team's +10 and they're out of the playoffs. A lot of times that team is in the playoffs by the end of the season, you know? Like, that's just like, it shows a lot of the time who the better teams are. Now, my thing is, with a goalie the quality of Jesper Wallstedt or Joseph Woll, the price, to me, might be a little bit prohibitive because they need so much else. I don't know what the alternatives are, but, like, you need guys who can score the freaking puck, like, in very specific roles. You need a power forward. You need someone who can get their ass to the front of this net.
Well, hopefully you're getting that in Porter Martone. I think what you really need to go out and get is a center.
You need that is very much on the list. You need guys who can take up space and score in front of the net. You need guys who can play down the middle, because right now your number 1C is a 3C. And you need a defenseman who can help score on the power play. Like, you need all these things. A goalie, the quality of Jesper Wallstedt, is going to cost quite a bit.
I agree with that.
And I feel like Wall maybe is a little different.
And I'd be more intrigued by Wall, because I feel like you might be able to get Wall for say, a second-round pick and a decent enough prospect. Wallstead is a young, talented goalie. Like, you're giving up a first and probably more to pry him out of Minnesota. So I agree with you on Wallstead. Wall is a little bit more intriguing to me.
Considering the assets, and it's not like they're short on things, but listen, it took 2 first-round picks to draft Jack Nesbitt, who we're not sure when the hell he's going to get here and what he's going to be when he does. 3 picks in total spent on Luchenko and Nesbitt, who don't look like, at this point, they're going to be premium players. You need to be a little, I don't want to say conservative, because like I want them to take risks and do cool stuff, but you need to be conscious of what you're spending on, your tandem goaltender, because Dan Vladar has shown he's a pretty good number 1 right now. Now, listen, that his career trajectory isn't that, and that's why I have softened on my get the extension done this summer. I want to get it done over the holidays. Let's give him the first few months of next year just to show us he's a 900 or better goalie and this wasn't a fluke, because goalies are weird.
Goalies are weird.
You never know.
That's true.
So take the time. Take the time going into next year. If on Thanksgiving or on New Year's Day he's sitting there at 908, you're like, okay, 4-year deal, done. Like, I am absolutely cool with that. But like the idea that like, okay, Joseph Wall also, he'll be 28 in July. Like really 3 years as a full-time NHLer, 2 making half the starts for the Leafs. Pretty good results, 907, 909, 905 these last 3 seasons. I would be interested in that. Yeah, Wallstead being as young as he is and the potential he has. Yeah, man, I would love that guy, but he's not a free agent. It's not just cash. It's assets. Yeah. They need so much else. Again, 2.77 goals per game. That's not enough to win.
I guess the flip side of it, though, and I'm mostly with you with Wallstead, because the other thing with Wallstead, why I'm a little iffy on that one, is I do like the Flyers goalie prospects, and I don't necessarily want to go all in on Wallstead if I think that Dvorak is going to solve this problem in 2-3 years anyway and pay the price that Wallstead would cost. But the flip side argument would be, if you're the Flyers, because it's not like you're not negotiating and talking with other teams about these other positions at the same time.
Sure.
If you're the Flyers and you're Danny Briere and you've got a lot of balls in the air, you're talking to Minnesota about Wallstead, you're talking to Toronto about Wall, maybe you're talking to Toronto about Austin Matthews, you're talking to St. Louis about Robert Thomas, and you come to the conclusion that none of these center teams are serious. They're not trading anybody. Do you just say, well, I want to improve my team and I trust that I'll be able to build my asset war chest back up again for next summer by trading Ristolainen or whatever, and then you give up some assets to improve the goalie position because you're going to have to improve it anyway, because it's like, well, I'd rather improve center, but I can't improve center because no one's willing to trade a center unless we give up one of michkov or Martone, and we're not willing to do that. So let's just address the goalie situation now, check that box, and then punt the center thing until next trade deadline, next offseason, whatever.
Oof, man. Like, I know in all, like just because of the number of deals that get done and how many number 1 centers move, it's likely it doesn't happen this summer. But damn, that's just so much time without adding a guy.
Yeah.
Oh no, I agree.
Very plausible scenario.
I think it's the likely, better than 50% chance of that. Now, listen, stuff with low percentage chances happens all the time. I just think the likeliest outcome is, we don't get that guy this summer, even if it's not, like, we're not talking a McKinnon or McDavid level guy. Yeah. We're saying, like, Robert Thomas-ish.
Yeah. But like perfect example. Let's say you're Danny Briere, okay, and you go in, you end up with the 15th overall pick in the draft. It's the nightmare scenario for everyone who wants a tank. You end up with 15th overall pick. You evaluate the draft. You're like, we'll get a good prospect, but we're not going to get anybody who's going to solve one of our big problems. So you go into this summer the same way that, and I hate saying this, same way that Chuck Fletcher went into the summer 2021 being like, I don't want to use that draft pick. I'm trading that first round pick for something. And your number 1 is, well, if I can trade it for a center, that's my preference. But you find out that you're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
Would you rather they make the pick, just pick somebody who isn't necessarily going to solve a big problem, or have that be the centerpiece of a trade for Jesper Wallstead? Because you're going to do one of those two things. You're either going to make the pick or you're going to trade it away. And if you can't get a center, do you trade for the goalie?
That's a really interesting scenario.
I'm just saying that these are the things that Briere's going to have to think about.
Wallstead was a first-round pick in 2021. He won't be 24 until November. So you are getting a prospect-ish aged guy who is already proven to be pretty competent, if not really good. He's got a 9.11 this year in the NHL. I wouldn't hate that idea. If you are, the first round pick could always be a boat.
Right. That's true.
There's always what if we make the pasta pick? Yeah. What if we make the Giroux pick? Yeah. What if we're the team that finally does that thing?
You're not wrong.
And you look, hey man, they got him at 14, 15, it's not always the top three.
Robert Thomas was taken in the later first round.
Yeah.
You can find those guys. You have to get lucky, but
you do. Even Travis Konechny, if they got a Travis Konechny level player, that would go a long way for this team.
Charlie McAvoy was picking the teens.
He was.
You can find those players. It's harder. You have to get lucky.
You have to get luck. The luck that's involved in this whole thing, I often say, no one wants to acknowledge. I don't like to think about it because I'm like, man, our luck has just been terrible.
Well, then it just means you don't have any control.
Yes, which I hate. Danny Briere just needs to, control every team.
He needs to be good.
Yeah, do your job.
Do your job, dude.
And swindle everybody,
Yeah. I mean, that is his job, though. That is his job. But there's a lot of variance and luck that's involved, too.
If they continue on the path they're on, where it's win one, lose one in overtime, win one, lose a couple in a row, and they do end up picking here in the 13 to 15 range, I don't hate the idea of Wallstead because he's younger. Even if Zavragin is the answer, okay, now we have two.
Yeah,
and it's not as if you're tied forever to Dan Vladar. Exactly, yeah. You can even give him a 3 to 4 year extension, and guess what? Everyone needs goaltending. You won't be stuck with a guy, even if he's 32 years old. Everyone needs a goalie. You tell them Edmonton wouldn't give you something for Dan Vladar tomorrow.
That's really true.
They're like, Connor Ingram, he's our guy. That's their thing, So yeah. I do think I don't hate that scenario as much as they need a center. I want other stuff. Yeah, I don't. You have sold me a little bit here.
It's an interesting thought experiment because I feel like the fear that you were expressing earlier is I don't want to burn these assets because I want to save them to trade for a center. But a draft pick in 2026, it kind of is a ticking time bomb.
Especially if they're able.
There's a moment where you're going to have to make the decision: do we want to use it as a draft pick or a trade asset?
Especially if they are able to add, whether it's for this year or next year, a first for Rasmus Ristolainen. That.
Skeptical, but I guess it's
possible. That absolutely changes the arithmetic for me.
They do have the Toronto
even if they have the Toronto pick in 27, they have their own pick in 27. If they are able to get a 26 or 27 for Risto, that changes it for me. I do think it's why wouldn't you get Jesper Wallstead if that's what they want? I don't want to give them much else. All right,
it might cost more.
If it's the 15th overall this year and Adam Yinning or something like that, sure. But if it's that and we want David Jiricek back, no.
No, I don't think they'd want David.
I'm just trying to come up.
But if they wanted Jet,
yeah, no, I'm not doing that because as much as I don't think Jet's a 1C. We need 3 centers.
Fair.
We need a 1, a 2, and a 4C. I'm not giving up one of our centers. We don't have enough. We have 1, and he's 30 years old, 29. All right. On the other side, we're going to continue talking about this. We're going to talk about the scoring woes and what might be causing them, and take your super chats and do some other stuff as well. Stay tuned through our second break.
Ew.
Do we really want Matvei Michkov playing goalie? No, it's not worth the risk, the time, or the money. It doesn't make sense. You want to keep your stars focused on what they do best, and the same applies to your business. For small and mid-sized businesses competing with bigger companies, it isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. With competition heating up, you can't afford to fall behind. AI goes way beyond ChatGPT, and it gets overwhelming fast. That's why having a trusted guide like Togo matters. Togo streamlines your operations by handling customer service, accounting, order management, logistics, admin, data entry, and even complex multi-step processes without the cost of building it all in-house. And every engagement with Togo starts with free process mapping, and Togo doesn't bill a dime until the real work begins. Programs start as low as $1,000 a month and are built to scale without breaking the bank. Visit harnesstogo.com and mention PHLY for a free operational assessment. It's time to make your home work smarter, not harder. With a TrueMark Financial home equity line of credit, you can tap into your home's equity to handle renovations, upgrades, or whatever's next on your list. A TrueMark Financial HELOC Select gives you the flexibility to borrow when you need it on your timeline. You start with a revolving line of credit, use only what you need, and when you're ready, you can lock in all or part of your balance at a fixed rate for predictable payments. You only pay interest on what you use, and as you pay it back, that credit becomes available again. No reapplying, no extra steps. With competitive rates compared to most unsecured loans and flexible repayment options, this could be a smart move for your home and your wallet. Learn more at TrueMark Financial's home equity line of credit at TrueMark.com or stop by one of their 24 branch locations to get started. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender, NMLS 404938. Let's go Flyers. Back. Now, the reason I harped on the number of 3 goals earlier, one is because when Dan Vladar starts and the Flyers score 3, they are 18-1. That's insane. And that's not even counting the shootouts that get them to 3. That's just the games in which they score 3 through 60 or 65 minutes.
Okay.
They're 18-1. The problem with the Flyers this year, because they're playing decent enough defense. They don't give up shots. They don't give up a ton of goals. They can't score. The Flyers right now average 2.77 goals per game. That is 26th in the league. And the reason I was harping on that 3-goal number, other than they always win when they score 3, 18 teams in the NHL average 3.1 goals a game or more. There's no one who averages 3. The 19th team is 295. So this is basically just 3 or more goals. You average it per game. 14 of those 18 teams are in a playoff spot right now, Charlie. 2 of them, the Blue Jackets and Sharks, are 1 point out of the playoffs. They are 15th and 16th in scoring. The only playoff teams not in the top 18 averaging 3 goals a game are the Islanders and the Red Wings. Both are tied for 21st at 2.88 goals per game. And you look at like the playoff teams and go, oh yeah, the Islanders and Detroit, those are like the vulnerable teams. Like those are the ones, if the Flyers are going to make it, it might be over one of those 2.
That's true.
They're not, but you might look at them. So it led me to ask, is this coaching or personnel, Charlie? That is the big question. 25.2 shots on goal a game. That is 30th. Ahead of the Blues and the Blackhawks. Those are bad teams. But they only give up 25.7 shots a game. That's the 4th fewest in the league. This is why I'm like, maybe they could sacrifice a little bit of this defense for offense. I'm not saying you got to suddenly become Joel Quenneville's Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, no one can do that.
That's not them.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not going to be, like, they don't have the personnel for that. And it's definitely not going to be them under Rick Tocchet. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, what if you gave up 28 shots a game in looking towards, hey, we need to score a little bit. Now, improving the power play would probably be the easiest way for them to add some offense.
That is true.
Like, they never score in the power play.
But they can't seem to do that.
But, like, they added Trevor Zegras, and the power play is just as bad as it was without him.
I feel like the woman at the end of the Titanic. Like, it's been 87 years.
Like, it's
since the power play was good.
It's truly insane that, like, okay, yeah, man, we added Trevor Zegras to this 15% power play. What did we keep it at? 15%. Like, it's kind of unbelievable. I want your thoughts here. 2.7 goals, 2.77 goals per game. Now, last year, they're basically the exact same. 2.83, 27 shots on goal a game. They give up 27 shots on goal a game. This is basically the exact same team, which leads me to think personnel, but also you have Dvorak come in. We talked about this the other day. All the guys having career years, bounce back years, whatever. Dvorak comes in. He's already got a new career high in points, and his points per game is at around a new career high if he keeps this up, and he's going to play more games than he ever did in those big years. Zegras, he is 1 goal away from a career high. He's 10 assists away from tying his career high. His points per game gonna be around at right now. He's 0.82, like 0.81 and 0.8 were what he did his 2 big years in Anaheim. So at the very least, about what he did there. The Flyers added these 2 guys into their top 6. Konechny already matched last season's goal total in 20 fewer games. They got 116 points from D-men this year already. There's 16 games left. They're 16 points away from matching what they did last year on defense. Noah Cates is 3 points away from last season's total. Owen Tippett is 2 goals ahead of last year's total already with 16 games left. It feels like they should score a little more than they do. I'm not saying they should be blowing 4.5 goals a game here. I'm just saying under 3 seems insane for what they have. They should be in the top 18 in scoring. I'm not asking for top 5. They should be in the top half of the league in scoring based on their personnel.
Okay, so what was the initial question? Because you asked the question and then you went on like 5 minutes of like data dump. What is the question?
Is this coaching or personnel? Because to me, it's more on the coaching end.
Yes, I can tell that you absolutely think it is Rick Tocchet. I think it is both. I think Rick Tocchet teams do tend to be low scoring. We have miles of data that says that is true. And the fact that they are as low event as they have been this year, like that strikes me as a coaching thing. By the same token, I do think that the personnel plays a role, particularly the personnel down the middle. I just think that, like, I don't think this team would be high scoring if they had better centers, because I think Tocchet's teams are always going to be defensively oriented. They're always going to prioritize like protecting the house and providing outlets on breakouts rather than cheating the zone and flying in the neutral zone. That's never going to be a part, or at least it hasn't been to this point, part of a Rick Tocchet system. But I also think that the lack of speed down the middle in particular, it kills most of their pace and their rush-based offense. Because I track their games. I track all the Flyers games at 5-on-5. Tocchet gets a really, I'm going to say bad rap. He's got a lot of criticism on social media this year for this team being a dump and chase
His
team.
reputation is like, oh, they just dump and chase, and that's really not the case.
I mean, they do. Like,
sure.
it is basically, they're dumping and chasing more than they did under Torts.
Which was like not something they did under Torts.
Yes, they were about by my tracking, they were about a 50% controlled entry team under John Tortorella. Under Rick Tocchet, to start the year, they were heavy dump and chase. They were around 42, 43%, and it was like, oh boy, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be Alain Vigneault, first year Dave Haxtell territory of dump and chase. Since December, they're around 47%, which, again, lower than Torts. Yeah. They're dumping and chasing more. But it's not like skewed to the level of, oh my God, all they ever do is dump and chase. They do create quite a few controlled entries. In fact, over the last few games, they've been more controlled entries than dump-ins. It's just that those controlled entries don't come with a lot of speed.
They're not rushes.
They're like, they're controlled moves up ice, but they don't have the numbers advantage. They're not coming in with high speed. Like, the only person that's able to manufacture that is Owen Tippett. That's it. No one else in the team. And I guess Travis Konechny when he's healthy, but I don't think he's healthy right now. So I do think personnel is playing a role, particularly down the middle. Because if you don't have that speed down the middle, it makes everything in terms of the move up ice go slower. But you can't dismiss the fact that Rick Tocchet teams are always low scoring. It's just the things he prioritizes. It's the way, historically, he's coached as a head coach in the NHL. So I think the answer to your question is yes, it's both.
I think they have the personnel to score a little more.
I agree with that.
Like, maybe a little. I'm not saying they have, like, again, they don't have a top 5 offense, clearly.
Yeah.
Like they have a 15% power play. That's almost impossible, you know? Like, unless you're Colorado and they just have horrible luck on the power play this year. But you look at Rick Tocchet's all-time ranks. I went back and took a look at what his teams have done scoring-wise in Vancouver and Arizona, Charlie. I didn't feel like going back to Tampa because who cares? It was like 20 years ago. But I took a look. So this year, the Flyers are 26th in scoring, 2.77 goals per game. There is the his 2 full years in Vancouver, 23rd and 6th. They went from 6th back up to 23, like real rough there after scoring like basically the same number of goals in the half season he coached. They were a almost 3.5 goal a game team. They are his first full year there, and then they're down, to 2.84 goals a game. You look at what he did in Arizona, 23rd, 29th, 30th. This is what his teams do. And that's what leads me more than anything to be like, can you win this way? Like, can you win with a team that gets 25, 26 shots a night? They're lucky to break 20 some nights now. A team that doesn't score 3 goals most of the time, a team that doesn't break anywhere close to 30 shots most of the time. Can you actually win with Rick Tocchet's offensive approach? Do you think it's possible?
Yes, I do, because I do think you can, to me, it's less about scoring and it's more about a differential. You can be a really good defensive team and you can win games by being a really good defensive team if your defense is good enough to outweigh the fact that your offense isn't that great. Now, is it hard? Yeah, because you have to be a really, really good defensive team. The one thing about Tocchet that was the case in Vancouver, and this is the struggle of it, they do finish at a high rate. They do. It's just that they don't shoot much.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The Canucks, and yes, we can go back to that one year where they were President's Trophy team and, he was whatever. They did get lucky. They shot the lights out. But even the year after that, they still shot at a pretty high rate. It's just that they never shot. That's the problem. So the Tocchet system is functionally, when it's working the way he wants it to work, it is low shot totals, high shooting percentage. Now, I think that one year where they were the sixth best team?
Yeah.
That was a year where they got lucky with the shooting percentage. But
and their goaltending was like .920.
Yeah, Demko was fantastic. But I do think that Tocchet's system, when done the way he wants it to be done, it does lend itself to higher than average shooting percentages. And if you can make that work, maybe you can score just enough that you're scoring just enough with strong defense and great goaltending. So I think it's workable, but it's hard to be a great team without a great offense, to be sure.
I just think that, yes, it is. It's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable. We talk so much, though, about how we always say, yeah, man, maybe the best coach, maybe the best GM, maybe the best president is a member of the Flyers family. You're just limiting your pool. I feel like they're just making it harder on themselves by limiting themselves offensively the way they have, and maybe improved personnel and fixing the power play does all that. But again, I go back to the 18 teams averaging over 3 goals a game. That means you need to hold more than half the league well under their average to win playing this way. And that seems incredibly difficult to do through an 82, 84 game season soon, and then potentially 27 playoff games.
I guess one of the big questions you got to ask yourself about, because maybe Rick Tocchet, and this would shock me, but I guess you can't rule out the possibility. Maybe he'll pull a John Tortorella, because if you remember John Tortorella, year 1, he had them playing dump and chase, defense. Yeah. Then year 2, he's like, all right, boys, we're going to open it up. Man Russian's on his way. Now we're going to play transition hockey, and we're going to go for 2-on-1s and breakaways all the time. So, maybe Rick Tocchet completely flips the script next year. I'm not expecting it.
No.
But I guess it's theoretically possible. But assuming that he doesn't do that, and assuming that the Flyers remain a low shot volume team, my question to you is do you think they can up the shooting percentage? Because we tend to look at the Flyers as a not that skilled team. And I think that is fair. I think it is fair to look at them as a not that skilled team. I'm going to ask you a question. If you were to guess, where do you think the Flyers rank this season? Based on your view of their talent level, where do you think they rank in terms of all situations shooting percentage? Where do you think they rank? Where do you think they should rank?
16th.
That is exactly where they rank. But my point, what I'm getting at is, based on the way we talk about this team and based on the way people think about this team, I would think most people without that setup would think they're probably down in 28th, because it's they don't have any good players.
No,
the Rick Tocchet's system, I think, has helped them finish at a higher rate than they would otherwise. The question is, though, like, all right, right now they're at 16th at 11.14% shooting percentage. For this system to work, he probably has to get them up into the top 5. Because that's the only way that you're going to be able to make up for the fact that they never shoot. So can they do that? Can he do that? If he can't do that, then they're not going to score enough because it's just the system's not going to work. You're not going to be able to win by being a middle of the road finishing team and being one of the worst shot volume teams. You could win if you're a bad shot volume team, but a top tier finishing team. So the question really in my mind is, can he get them to that point? He did in Vancouver. Can he do it in Philly? I think it's fair to be skeptical given the guys they have on this team, unless like Michkov turns back into Michkov and Martone is awesome right off the bat.
We will finish this part of the conversation, take all your super chats on the other side. We just got to hit this final break. What if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? Well, that's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together. Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. And Wi-Fi that lets you stream the game even when the whole family's already online. All your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. And the best part, there's no annual contracts and no hidden fees. And Xfinity's best equipment is always included. Take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, dreams grow bigger, but your Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable and the price should stay put. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only, restrictions apply, and as always, let's go Flyers. You know, tax season is funny because it's one of the only times all year people actually look at their full financial picture. You see what you made, what you spent, what you saved, and sometimes you're left wondering, wait, where did all that go? Well, now you can simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It helps you see exactly where your money's going and where something like a tax refund can actually make the biggest impact, whether that's paying down your debt or building up your savings. What I like is Monarch actually helps you stay proactive. Their AI Insights tool highlights spending trends and patterns you might miss, and the weekly recap keeps you updated on things like spending spikes, changes in your net worth, or upcoming expenses. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple. Use code PHLY at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com with code PHLY. All right, welcome back. We're talking about the Flyers offense and how maybe they can make it work in the Rick Tocchet system. We were just saying off air, Charlie, like you were telling me, like where Tocchet's teams have ranked, like the big year in Vancouver.
They were second.
They're second.
Second best in terms of team shooting percentage, all situations. Then the bad year, the year where, you know, the star players are fighting and the team doesn't make the playoffs, they were 12th. So this basically tells you, if they're top 5 with a Tocchet system in terms of shooting percentage, you can make it work. You can make it work. You can make a low volume shooting style work. It's not like the year after, though, they dropped down to 28th. They were still above league average.
Yeah.
Like 12th is decent. It's not elite, but it's decent. It's better than average. And they didn't make playoffs. So you can't make this style work if you're just okay at finishing. You need to be elite at finishing, which is why I'm saying, like, it's harder. It's harder because they have to become a really good finishing team if this Rick Tocchet offensive system is going to work long term.
I think the path for it to work is, one, Matvei Michkov just creates more opportunities for himself and beats goalies clean. He's had more trouble doing that this year than last year, but his shooting percentage isn't terribly far off. He's at 12.4% this year. He was at 13 last year.
Okay.
For a lot of last year, he was in the high teens, 20s, and then he just started firing from everywhere at the end of the season because it was like, we don't care about anything.
Yeah.
Pad your stats. Bad man's gone. Have some fun the last 9-10 games. Tyson Forster is a career 16% shooter, 15.9. He was almost 25% this year. Now, listen, he played 21 games, scored 10 goals. Hey, if he's a half a goal a game scorer and he's going to score 40, 45 goals for you. Sure, great. Maybe that's who he turns into. We don't know. He's got to get healthy. Owen Tippett, one of the guys we've talked so much about how, hey, if Tocchet's really helped anybody, Owen Tippett really has come a long way.
He's rounded out his game this year, I believe.
He 10.4% career shooter, 12.6 this year.
Okay.
If he could be in that, I always think of Matt Reed, the 15% range. If he could be in the Matt Reed 15% range shooter, and Tyson Forster is in this 16, 17, 18% that he's been, and Michkov, and then, of course, like Martone being a distributor as well as net front goals, that he's just a more efficient shooter.
Yeah.
And getting your rebounds, things like that ups the shot total as well. He's just more efficient. Like, that's the path.
And those shots tend to be of high quality.
Yes, exactly. If you're right on the doorstep, tipping the puck, putting home a rebound, really good chance that goes in, because you're from the expected goal area, So we will but that is the path if they can do it with Tocchet and the way he's currently coaching.
Yeah, I think
that's it.
Yeah, that's my fear, because it's not that I don't think his system can work, at least to the degree where you are a competitive, contending team. What I don't know is if they have the personnel to do it. And also, and this is the big one, to me, it's like, okay, I get that Tocchet has a way he wants to coach offense. If the personnel can't do it, does he have the adaptability to adapt to the personnel? Or is he just going to continue to try to shove a square peg into a round hole? And to be clear, I think very highly of this coach, but I think back to Peter Laviolette. Peter Laviolette is a great offensive coach. He has a system, and he's like, this works, and I've coached it in multiple places, and it scored a ton of goals. The Flyers eventually got to a point where they could not run that system because they did not have any defensemen who could actually move the puck.
Yeah.
They could not play the high-flying system that Peter Laviolette wanted to play. And Peter Laviolette had two choices. It was either, okay, I could change my system to adapt to the players I have on hand and maybe not be as good of an offensive team, but at least score sometimes. Or I could just be like, nah, guys, keep doing this thing. It's always worked for me. It'll eventually work for you. He picked option B, and he got fired like 2 games into the season.
Let's be fair, 3.
I just wonder,
one of the best things ever.
Number one, do they have the personnel to do it, to execute the way Tocchet wants them to execute offensively? And if they don't, is he flexible enough to change? I guess maybe, but to this point in his career, I'm not sure he has been as a head coach at least.
And it gets down to like a coaching philosophy. This is something Jeff Marek brings up all the time. Like, is a coach's job to take a high-flying, a Cole Caulfield type, young guy who can put 30 in his sleep, no problem. Is it a coach's job to turn him into a 40, 45 goal scorer? Or is it like, he becomes a two-way player, we really got something? It's not that you can't play defense. Again, Stanley Cup champion teams, like going back to when Tocchet became a head coach in Arizona, I did this on a mini pod. You need both a top 10 offense and top 10 defense. You have to play some defense, but it's not everyone's job to have to be the same kind of player. You know who didn't play a ton of defense? This team's general manager, Danny Briere. You know who went on a lot of runs in the playoffs in his career? Danny Briere. You need different roles for different guys. Like, does Matvei Michkov have to play the same amount of defense as Noah Cates? The answer to that is no.
Obviously.
And I just think there needs to be maybe a little bit of just a little bit of bend to the Tocchet system, but we'll see.
I guess if you're looking,
and like you said, Tortorella was like, "Hey, this team can't score. The only way we're going to do it is if we turn all these block shots into 2-on-1s."
He was able to do it. And that was very impressive, especially in retrospect, looking at the perception we had of Torts as a coach. The one, I guess, maybe I hesitate to call it reason for optimism, but it at least like makes you think like, maybe, is Trevor Zegras. Because Tocchet has worked well with Zegras so far.
Yeah.
In that he has worked to help Zegras be better defensively. And Zegras, if you look at his underlying numbers, like, he's never been a better play driver in the NHL than he has been this year. Like, that has been a win in terms of getting him to play better defense without completely stifling his offense. Now, maybe you could make a case that, hey, if Trevor Zegras was on the Quenneville coach Ducks and they wouldn't have traded him, maybe he'd be scoring 95 points this year. That's possible. But Zegras at least shows that he can take an offensively oriented guy, improve his defense, but also keep him rolling offensively and even help him bounce back to where he was before he had that 2-year drop off. So if you're looking for optimism, I think Zegras is probably the one guy you point to. But then it brings up the well, does he only do that with North American players?
Well, and Owen Tippett killing penalties now. And with that, we got to hit overtime. Go to allphly.com to finish today's show. Maybe I don't want to think that it's only a North American player thing. Like, there are just different styles and ways the game are played. And while Trevor Zegras' personality was, I play offense and do highlight stuff. Yeah. It's not as if it hasn't been drilled into him since whenever he started playing, Herb Brooks quotes, he's been hit over the head with them.
He's been hearing it since he was probably 3 years old.
Yeah, it's just maybe now it's taking hold. Maybe now he's just mature enough. I don't really think, though. Maybe I refuse to believe that there's some sort of North American bias.
I don't think he's xenophobic or anything, but it could be a stylistic preference. That there are certain things that European guys do that just don't fit with the way he prefers guys to play.
Elias Pettersson is going to set the record for blocks by a Vancouver Canuck forward this year.
Really?
Yeah.
God,
that poor man.
I really hope it gets some. I don't think it's going to happen in Vancouver, but I really hope somebody can fix that man's hockey.
Maybe it's us. Oh, probably not. No, probably not. All right.
It's really fun to watch. As a hockey fan, I want to watch Elias Pettersson again be 100-point Elias Pettersson. He was a fun player.
They would probably take 60 points of Elias Pettersson at this point. Yeah. All right, let's get to your super chats. What is this? Just Giroux. Just Giroux it. I get it. Says, what section is the group in for the game in Anaheim? I want to be in the fun section in the Mausoleum of Orange County. We're not going.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Obviously not going.
We're here. We are in Philadelphia right now. We are not going on this trip. It was just a logistics issue. But Philly Sports Trips, check them out. Maybe send an email. All right. David Chubb asks, the organization should trade away an old fixture for a center to threaten the locker room and mix things up. Also, fire an assistant coach and give Tocchet some fear.
One thing I will say, I've been very not anti, but more just assistant coaches don't get fired in the NHL the way they do, mid-season, the way they do in the NFL. It's happened a couple times.
It's been happening.
So maybe they're taking some cues from the NFL.
The way GMs fire coaches to shield themselves, coaches are starting to do with their buddies. They're like, yeah, man, we got it. Power play's no good. I don't coach the power play. Sorry.
Yeah. But to go back to the two things that David Chubb said, the organization should trade away an old fixture for a center. Who are the old fixtures, and what old fixtures would bring you back a center?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes, you could be shake it up, trade Sean Couturier. I got news for you. If they trade Sean Couturier, you ain't getting a center back. Yeah. And if you do, it's not going to be a good one.
And guess what? They're going to be paying him close to $4 million to go away. That's the reality of the situation. And I don't see someone even paying half for what they get from Sean Couturier. So I don't know. And then Sanheim and Konechny, maybe there's a conversation at some point, but it doesn't seem like either are all that interested, because the Flyers wanted to trade Sanheim, thought they had him traded. Then the no trade kicks in, and guess what hasn't come up since? That conversation.
Yeah, and also, look, maybe I'm a little biased here because I've enjoyed watching the progression of Travis Sanheim, but you gotta take a step back here and take a look at that contract. That contract is freaking awesome.
Yeah, no matter what you think of him, considering what players are going to cost, $6 million is going to be the player average salary in a couple of years, 2 or 3 years.
That's going to be what number 4, number 5 defensemen are getting all over the league. And he's a 2. He's a 1 on this team. He's probably a 2 on a great team. And that number only going to go up. You're going to be seeing number 1 defenseman be getting 15, 16 mil.
Yes.
That's a really good contract.
Like,
it's such a good contract that even though he will get worse as he ages, it's likely going to remain a really good contract unless he goes Sean Couturier and breaks his back.
When the cap is, in a few years at 120, Stars can get a maximum of 20% of the cap. That means half of that is 12 mil. Like,
wow.
Like, let's think about what this is going to be. If the max you can get is 20 and 12 mil is that 16 mil that Kaprizov is getting is going to be like, yeah, that's what, yeah, okay, yeah. All right. Anyway, next one here, also from David, the fourth line with 90 seconds left was cowardly.
Yeah, I criticized
that. Did
that.
this come up? I mean, me and you, me and Petey talked about it.
I brought it up.
You brought about it. Yeah. You talked about it as well. Did this actually come up in the postgame with Tocchet?
No.
Okay.
No, it's.
How can you put them out there?
I mean, you know why? It's because he was playing for the overtime. That's why.
Which is insane. Overtime didn't help you. I mean, it actually hurt you.
Well, like, what I will say is
they're terrible in 3-on-3.
What I will say about that is, like, is there a world where giving Columbus the extra point won't matter? Like, yeah, Columbus could fall off a cliff. You know, they could lose 6 straight the rest of this year and completely fall out, and then it doesn't matter that you gave them the extra point. My preference would be to go for the jugular, or at the very least, don't obviously play for the tie.
Don't tell your team we're trying to get a tie here. Like, that to me, it's more that mindset than anything else. Like, all right, no one do anything too crazy in these final 2 minutes.
If we're putting Couturier and Grundstrom out there, like, yeah, we probably ain't scoring, and that's what we want.
Yeah. All right, next one here is David says, top teams play it too safe. A true snooze fest. They are low-event games.
They are low-event games. Yeah.
Now, we've had a few interesting low-event games lately. But for the most part, no, they're not all that interesting to watch. Maybe they'll just be a brawl or something in these last 16 games.
Yeah, I do wonder, though. Like, because right now, it seems like the aesthetic criticism of the Tocchet system is more limited to the online fans. Like, the arena is still mostly packed. Like, it's not like it's hitting them yet on the attendance side. But I do wonder, like, what if this team is, next year they make the playoffs and they lose in round 1. The next year they make the playoffs, they lose in round 1, but they're making progress, whatever. But they're still, averaging 24 shots a game and giving up 23 shots a game, and it's boring. If attendance starts drop, like if they don't see the subsequent jump in attendance they're expecting to see when this team is regularly making the playoffs every year, like, do they let Tocchet go purely for aesthetic reasons? Like, I do wonder, but we're 3-4 years down the road here, and there's a lot that would have to go right for that to even be like a conversation. But I do wonder if at some point the perceived boringness of the Flyers under Tocchet, if that starts to bother the people above Tocchet.
If they're winning, no, this team was selling out every night with Ken Hitchcock.
Okay, that's true. That's a good point.
Hitchcock
hockey was boring.
300 people short of last year's average for attendance. Team better, but everything also more expensive. People have less money.
Right.
So it's kind of basically the exact same. I think if they're good, people don't care what it looks like. But
okay,
if they continue to be mid, and it's like, yeah, man, you're going to see under 50 total shots on goal in this game.
So you think that if the team was, and I guess here's my question though, what degree of good? If they are good, but good for the next 3 years is make the playoffs and lose in round 1, does that, do people still get really frustrated that they're boring?
I think like the first year they make the play, like if they're, say, third in the division, losing 7 to the second seed or whatever, like they are sold out every game the next year.
Okay.
And then if it's the exact same thing, it's like, yeah, it's still boring. We're a wild card team, third in the division. Then maybe there's a drop in year 2 or 3 of that.
But you think there's going to be an immediate spike, regardless of how they get to the playoffs? If they get to the playoffs, there's going to be a spike because people will be excited about the winning.
Yeah, like we haven't seen playoff hockey since, no one has been to a Flyers playoff game since 2018.
Yeah. I'm just curious if there's a point where, like, even if it's working, if it could if it could frustrate enough fans that the ownership has to take notice that fans think this team is boring as sin.
Could be. I think it could get there, but like being good right now over everything else.
Okay.
All right. Next one. David again. Tippett, 2 firsts, and Jet for Higgins.
Yeah, I do not think that Boston is trading Higgins. I think if you wanted Higgins, yeah.
They do seem to like Owen Tippett. They
Yeah.
apparently call about him quite often.
Yeah.
But the Flyers had a chance to take James Higgins with 1 first and did not.
True.
So 2 and then some other stuff would be a little surprising.
Yeah, I just don't see a world where, Boston's open to getting the conversation far enough that specifics are even talked about. I think it's like, hey, are you open to trading James Higgins? No. Okay.
What about...
No.
I said shut up.
Bye.
How'd you get this number? All right. And finally, to close it out, it is Stuart Miller. Do you think the looking for high-quality shots philosophy is overemphasized by guys like Tocchet and Montgomery?
It's interesting you mentioned Montgomery because he does have the same philosophy. Right. He had that philosophy in Boston. He's had that philosophy in St. Louis. Obviously, St. Louis having a real bad year this year.
I think telling Sean Couturier and Luke Glendening to look for high-quality shots is dumb. They're not going to score on a high or low-quality shot. Just throw it at the freaking net or pass it back to the point and then crowd the goalie and hope you don't get called for interference. Yeah, man, Matvei Michkov can pass around and then say, cycle back to me. He can be him and, Owen Tippett and Tyson Forster and Trevor Zegras. They can basically be Will Ferrell and semi-pro. He's like, feed me. Nope. Let's try again. Like, feed me. Nope. And then get the perfect shot off because they have offensive abilities. But at this point, I don't know, Noah Cates, just wind up and shoot. See how it goes. That's kind of... Again, I think there should be maybe different allowances for different guys.
And again, this goes back to our question about, is Tocchet ultimately flexible enough to make this system work in Philadelphia? And that, I will say that it is uncertain.
We'll see.
The past history does not give me supreme optimism. But that said, the past history of John Tortorella didn't give me supreme optimism because he was going to turn this team into a rush-based attack in year 2.
The one thing they can do to offset any of the coaching is just get a whole bunch of good players.
That's true.
And then it's doesn't matter.
But again,
they're awesome.
This goes back to the debate you have. I guarantee you that when Danny Briere has his wrap-up interview with Rick Tocchet at the end of the year, because Danny Briere is a smart guy. He's going to be like, Rick, what do we need to do to score more goals? This is unacceptable. Can't be averaging 24 shots a game. What do we need to do to produce more offense? I guarantee you what Rick Tocchet is going to say is, get me better centers. And fair. They need better centers. And it's a fair point from Rick Tocchet. But here's the thing. If you can't get him better centers, then Rick Tocchet cannot next year just throw up his hands and say, well, you didn't get me better centers, so I guess we're doing this again. No, he has to find ways to manufacture offense. He just can't be like, well, sorry, Danny didn't do his job, so we're going to suck offensively again. No, it's your job to make lemonade out of lemons.
If our boss came to us and was like, how do we get more people watching your show? And I'm like, get us on TNT. And it's what if we can't get you on TNT? How can you get more people to watch a show? I can't go. I don't care. Not my problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to then figure out how I can do my job better.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we conclude today's PHLY Flyers. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for just getting us to 100 likes.
Yeah,
way to go.
While
I wrap up, everyone who hasn't, hit the like button, then I'll feel good on my drive home. Make sure you're following us right here on the PHLY Sports YouTube page. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. 2 4 p.m. shows this week, doubling last week's total. Make sure you tune into that. We've got pre and post game for all the games this week. Wednesday, Thursday, some late night action. So tune in for that. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. I am Bill Matz. That is Charlie O'Connor. Thank you to Brenna. Be excellent to each other.
We all silly like the mayor.